There is something about being a Virgo that most people never talk about, and it might be the very thing that has been weighing on you for longer than you realize. You feel pressure. Not the kind that comes from a deadline or a difficult situation, but a pressure that lives inside you, constantly reminding you that things could be better, that you could be doing more, that something is not quite right even when everything looks fine on the surface. You have carried this feeling for so long that it almost seems normal, like it is just part of who you are. But what if I told you that this pressure is not a flaw in your character? It is actually a signal, a deep and powerful signal that you have been misreading your entire life. Today we are going to unpack the real reason you feel this weight on your shoulders, and more importantly, I am going to walk you through 10 specific ways to ease that pressure so you can finally breathe, finally relax into your own life, and finally stop punishing yourself for not being perfect. If you have ever felt like no matter how much you accomplish, it is never quite enough, this one is for you. Stay with me because what comes next might change the way you see yourself entirely. Tip 1. The pressure you feel is not about what is happening around you. It is about what is happening inside you. Let me start with something that might surprise you, because most Virgos I have spoken with over the years have this one thing in common. They believe that the pressure they feel comes from the outside. They think it is their job, their family, their responsibilities, the expectations of others. And yes, those things can certainly add weight. But the real source of the pressure you carry, it does not come from out there. It comes from in here, from the way your mind works, from the way you process the world, from the standards you have set for yourself that are so impossibly high that no human being could ever consistently meet them. You see, Virgo energy is analytical by nature. Your mind is always running, always scanning, always looking for the thing that is out of place. And that is a gift in many ways. It makes you reliable. It makes you the person everyone turns to when something needs to be done right. It makes you sharp, perceptive, and deeply intelligent. But there is a shadow side to that gift, and the shadow side is this. Your mind does not know when to stop. Keep scanning even when there is nothing wrong. Keep searching for problems even when things are going well. It keeps whispering that you missed something, that you forgot something, that you should have done it differently. And over time, that constant inner scanning creates a feeling of pressure that has nothing to do with what is actually happening in your life. You could be sitting in a quiet room with nothing on your schedule, and you would still feel it. That low hum of tension, that sense that you should be doing something, fixing something, preparing for something. This is not anxiety in the traditional sense, though it can certainly feel like it. This is your mental wiring doing what it was designed to do. But doing it without a filter, without a pause button, without a moment of rest. The first step to easing this pressure is recognizing where it actually comes from. It is not your circumstances. It is your relationship with your own thoughts. And once you understand that, everything begins to shift. You stop trying to fix the outside world and you start learning how to calm the inside one. You stop rearranging your schedule hoping that will bring peace, and you start rearranging the way you respond to your own inner critic. This is not about ignoring your thoughts or pretending they do not exist. It is about learning to observe them without obeying every single one. Your mind will always generate thoughts, concerns, lists, evaluations. That is what it does. But you get to decide which of those thoughts deserve your energy and which ones are just noise. And right now, a lot of what you are responding to is noise, not because your concerns are silly, but because your mind has a habit of treating every small imperfection like a crisis. Learning to separate real issues from manufactured urgency is the first and most important thing you can do to release the pressure that has been building inside you for years. It will not happen overnight, but it starts with one simple recognition. The pressure is not proof that something is wrong. The pressure is proof that your mind is overworking. And overworking minds, just like overworking bodies, need rest. Tip 2. You are allowed to lower your standards without losing your worth. This one is going to be hard for you to hear. And I know that because every Virgo I have ever worked with resists this idea with everything they have. But I need you to sit with it, really sit with it, because it might be the most freeing thing anyone has ever said to you. You are allowed to lower your standards. Not abandon them. Not throw them away. Not stop caring about quality. But lower them. Just enough to let yourself breathe. Because here is what has been happening, and you might not even realize it. You have been living by a set of internal rules that are so strict, so demanding, so unforgiving, that you have essentially turned your own life into a performance review. Every day you wake up and unconsciously grade yourself. Did you do enough? Were you productive enough? Were you kind enough? Were you organized enough? Did you eat the right things? Did you say the right things? Did you handle that situation the way you should have? And at the end of every day, the grade is almost never an A. Because no matter how well you did, your mind finds the one thing you could have done better and fixates on it. This is not discipline. This is self-punishment disguised as high standards. And it is slowly, quietly, relentlessly draining your energy, your joy, and your ability to appreciate the life you have built. Think about it this way. If someone you loved came to you and said they felt like a failure because they only completed 9 out of 10 tasks on their list, what would you say to them? You would tell them they were being too hard on themselves. You would remind them that 9 out of 10 is remarkable. You would encourage them to celebrate what they accomplished instead of mourning what they missed. But when it comes to yourself, you do not offer that same grace. You hold yourself to a standard that you would never impose on anyone else. And that double standard is one of the biggest sources of the pressure you feel every single day. Lowering your standards does not mean you stop caring. It means you start being realistic about what one person can reasonably accomplish. It means you give yourself permission to do things at 80% instead of demanding 100% every single time. It means you stop equating your worth with your output. You are not a machine. You are not a productivity system. You are a human being with limits, with needs, with a right to rest and imperfection, and days where you just do not have it in you to be extraordinary. And on those days, you are still enough. You are still valuable. You are still worthy of love and respect and all the good things life has to offer. The pressure eases the moment you stop demanding perfection from yourself. Not because you become careless, but because you become compassionate. And compassion, directed inward, is one of the most powerful forces you will ever encounter. It does not make you weak. It makes you whole. It fills in the cracks that perfectionism has created, and it reminds you that you were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be real. And real is messy and imperfect and sometimes disorganized and always enough. If what you're hearing feels accurate, imagine what could happen if you applied this energy intentionally for 21 consecutive days. That's exactly what the 21-day program in the pinned comment is built for. Daily guidance, focused direction, and real momentum. If you're tired of staying in the same cycle, this is your structure. Tip 3. Stop solving problems that have not happened yet. One of the most exhausting habits a Virgo carries is the tendency to solve problems that do not exist yet. You are a planner by nature, and there is nothing wrong with being prepared. But there is a significant difference between healthy preparation and the kind of mental rehearsal that keeps you up at night, running through every possible scenario, bracing for every potential disaster, building contingency plans for situations that may never arise. You do this because your mind tells you it is responsible. It tells you that if you think through every possibility, you will be ready for anything. And on the surface, that sounds logical. But in practice, what it actually does is keep you in a constant state of low-grade stress, because you are emotionally responding to events that have not happened and may never happen. Your body does not know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. When you sit in your chair and mentally walk through a worst-case scenario, your nervous system responds as if it is happening right now. Your shoulders tense. Your breathing gets shallow. Your heart rate increases. Your body is preparing for danger that exists only in your mind. And when you do this repeatedly, day after day, week after week, your body stays in that heightened state. It never fully relaxes because your mind never fully stops scanning for threats. This is where a huge portion of your pressure comes from, not from what is happening, but from what you are imagining might happen. And the cruel irony is that most of the things you worry about never come to pass. Studies have shown that the vast majority of the scenarios people worry about never actually occur. And even when something challenging does happen, it rarely unfolds the way you imagined it would. So all that mental energy you spent preparing for it, it was wasted. Not because preparation is bad, but because the kind of preparation you are doing is not practical. It is emotional. You are not making real plans. You are rehearsing feelings. You are practicing fear, practicing disappointment, practicing failure. All before anything has actually gone wrong. The way to break this pattern is to start catching yourself in the act. When you notice your mind racing ahead to a future problem, pause. Ask yourself one simple question. Is this happening right now? Not could it happen? Not might it happen? Is it happening right now, in this moment, in this room, in this hour? If the answer is no, then you are borrowing trouble from the future. You are paying interest on a debt that does not exist. And you deserve better than that. You deserve to live in the present moment where most of the time things are actually okay. Not perfect, not flawless, but okay. And okay is enough. Learning to stay in the present is not about being naive or unprepared. It is about being honest with yourself about what actually requires your attention right now versus what your mind is manufacturing to keep itself busy. Your mind likes to be busy. It feels uncomfortable with stillness, so it creates problems to solve even when there are none. Recognizing this pattern is the first step to breaking it. And breaking it is the first step to releasing a tremendous amount of pressure that you have been carrying unnecessarily for a very long time. Tip 4. Your body is keeping score of every worry you have not released. You might think that pressure is just a mental thing, something that lives in your thoughts and your worries and your endless to-do lists. But your body has been keeping track of every single worry you have not processed, every frustration you have swallowed, every moment of tension you push through without pausing to acknowledge it. And eventually the body speaks. It speaks through headaches that appear without explanation. It speaks through tightness in your neck and shoulders that no amount of stretching seems to fix. It speaks through stomach issues, sleep problems, fatigue that does not improve no matter how much rest you get. These are not random ailments. These are messages from a body that has been carrying too much for too long. Virgos are particularly prone to this because of a tendency to intellectualize emotions rather than feel them. When something upsets you, your first instinct is not to cry or express anger, or let the emotion move through you. Your first instinct is to analyze it, to understand why it happened, to figure out what you could have done differently, to create a plan so it does not happen again. And all of that mental processing, while valuable in some ways, does absolutely nothing to release the emotional charge from your body. The emotion gets filed away in your mind as a lesson learned, but it stays lodged in your body as tension, as tightness, as a knot that never quite unravels. Over the years, this accumulation becomes a physical burden that contributes enormously to the pressure you feel. You might not connect your back pain to the argument you never resolved, or your insomnia to the resentment you never expressed, or your digestive issues to the anxiety you have been swallowing every single day. But the connection is there, and it is real, and it is backed by decades of research into how emotional stress manifests physically. The way to begin releasing this stored tension is surprisingly simple, though it requires consistency. You need to give your body permission to feel. Not just think, but feel. When you notice tension in your body, instead of ignoring it or pushing through it, stop. Place your hand on the area that feels tight. Breathe into it. Ask yourself what emotion might be stored there. And then let yourself feel it, even if it is uncomfortable, even if it does not make logical sense, even if your mind tells you it is silly or unproductive. Crying is not weakness. Shaking is not dysfunction. These are your body's natural ways of releasing what it has been holding. Animals do this instinctively after a stressful event. They shake, they move, they discharge the energy and then return to a state of calm. Humans, especially Virgos, tend to suppress this process because it feels messy or undignified or irrational. But suppressing it does not make the energy go away. It just drives it deeper into your tissues, where it continues to create pressure from the inside out. Start paying attention to your body the way you pay attention to your tasks and responsibilities. Give it the same level of care and consideration, because your body is not separate from your mind. They are one system, and when one part is overloaded, the other feels it too. Releasing physical tension is not a luxury. It is a necessity, and it will do more to ease your pressure than any amount of planning or organizing ever could. Tip 5. The need to be useful is quietly destroying your peace. There is a pattern that runs through almost every Virgo I have ever encountered, and it is so deeply ingrained that most of them do not even recognize it as a pattern. It is the need to be useful. Not just helpful, not just kind, but fundamentally, structurally useful to the people around them. You measure your value by how much you contribute. You feel most comfortable when someone needs you. You feel most anxious when you have nothing to fix, nothing to organize, nothing to offer. And on the surface, this looks like a beautiful quality. The person who is always there, always ready, always willing to step in and help. But underneath that beautiful quality is a belief that is anything but beautiful. The belief that if you are not useful, you are not worthy. That if you stop doing things for other people, they would stop caring about you. That your love has to be earned through service. And that rest is something you have to justify by first exhausting yourself. This belief did not come from nowhere. It was likely planted in childhood. In moments where your helpfulness was rewarded with attention, and your rest was met with criticism or neglect. You learned early that doing things for others was the safest way to secure connection. And so you built your entire identity around being the reliable one, the responsible one, the one who always shows up and never complains. But that identity has become a cage. Because now, even when you want to rest, even when your body is begging you to stop, even when you have nothing left to give, you keep going. You say yes when you mean no. You volunteer for things you do not have the energy for. You take on other people's problems because sitting with your own feels selfish. And every time you override your own needs in favor of someone else's, the pressure inside you increases. Not because helping is wrong, but because compulsive helping, the kind that comes from fear rather than love, depletes you in ways that no amount of gratitude from others can replenish. The shift that needs to happen is this. You need to learn that you are valuable even when you are doing nothing, even when you are sitting still, even when you have nothing to offer anyone. Your worth is not a transaction. It is not something you earn by being productive or helpful or indispensable. It is inherent. It exists simply because you exist. And until you truly believe that, until it moves from an idea in your head to a knowing in your bones, you will continue to overextend yourself, continue to say yes when every cell in your body is screaming no, continue to pile more and more onto your plate because the alternative, being still and doing nothing, feels terrifying. The pressure you feel is not about having too much to do. It is about believing you have to do too much to be worthy of love. And that belief, once you see it clearly, begins to lose its power over you. Not all at once, but gradually, like a knot that slowly loosens when you stop pulling it tighter. Tip 6. You have been confusing worry with love. This is one of the most important things I will say in this entire conversation, so please listen carefully. You have been confusing worry with love for most of your life. And that confusion is a major source of the pressure you carry every day. When you worry about someone you care about, it feels like love. It feels like proof that you care, that you are invested, that you are a good person. But worry is not love. Worry is fear wearing a mask of affection, and it drains you in ways that genuine love never would. Think about how much of your mental energy goes toward worrying about other people. Your children, your partner, your friends, your family members. You worry about their health, their choices, their happiness, their future. You lie awake at night running through scenarios about what could go wrong in their lives. You carry their problems as if they were your own. You feel responsible for outcomes that are completely beyond your control. And you do all of this believing that it proves how much you love them. But here is the truth that might be uncomfortable to hear. All that worrying does not help them, not even a little bit. Your worry does not protect them from harm. It does not guide them toward better decisions. It does not shield them from the difficulties of life. All it does is exhaust you and create a constant state of tension that radiates outward and affects the very people you are trying to help. Because when you are consumed by worry, you are not fully present. You are in your head, running scenarios, anticipating problems, mentally preparing for disasters. And the people around you can feel that. They can feel your tension, your anxiety, your need to control outcomes. And instead of feeling loved, they often feel suffocated. They feel like they cannot make mistakes around you because your reaction will be so intense. They feel like they have to manage your emotions on top of their own challenges. This is not the impact you intend, but it is the impact that worry creates when it is mistaken for love. Real love is present. Real love trusts. Real love allows other people to navigate their own paths, make their own mistakes, and learn their own lessons. Real love says, I am here for you without the silent addition of, and I am also terrified that something will go wrong. Real love does not try to control outcomes. It does not need guarantees. It holds space without gripping. The shift from worry to love is one of the most liberating things you will ever experience. It does not mean you stop caring. It means you start caring in a way that nourishes both you and the people you love, instead of depleting everyone involved. When you catch yourself worrying, pause and ask, is this love or is this fear? The answer will almost always be fear. And fear, once you name it, begins to soften. It does not disappear entirely, but it loses the authority it once had over your behavior. You stop reacting to it automatically and you start choosing how to respond. And that choice, that moment of conscious redirection, is where true freedom lives for a Virgo. Not in the absence of concern, but in the ability to care without being consumed. Tip 7. You need to stop editing yourself before you speak. There is a process that happens inside your mind every single time you open your mouth to say something, and it happens so fast that you might not even be aware of it. Before a word leaves your lips, it passes through an internal filter that evaluates it, edits it, softens it, questions it, and sometimes deletes it entirely. You think before you speak, which sounds like a virtue, and in many ways it is. But you do not just think before you speak. You overthink. You over-edit. You over-filter. And by the time your words finally come out, they have been so carefully curated and sanitized that they no longer carry the truth of what you actually wanted to say. This constant self-editing is exhausting. It takes an enormous amount of mental energy to run every thought through a committee of inner critics before allowing it to exist in the world. And it creates a very specific kind of pressure. The pressure of unspoken truths. All those things you wanted to say but held back. All those opinions you had but swallowed. All those feelings you experienced but never expressed because you were afraid they would come out wrong, or be too much, or make someone uncomfortable. Those unspoken truths do not disappear when you silence them. They pile up inside you like letters that were never mailed, and over time, they create a heaviness that you cannot quite explain. You feel weighed down, but you cannot point to a specific cause. You feel frustrated, but you cannot identify the source. You feel disconnected from people, even though you are surrounded by them. And the reason is simple. You are not letting them see the real you. You are showing them the edited version, the polished version, the version that has been carefully constructed to avoid conflict and discomfort. But that version is not real. And relationships built on an edited version of you are not fully real either. They are relationships with your representative, not with you. The pressure eases when you start letting yourself be seen. Not perfectly, not eloquently, not with every word carefully chosen, but honestly, messily, authentically. When you say the thing you are afraid to say, not cruelly, not carelessly, but with the simple honesty of a person who is tired of performing. When you stop apologizing for your opinions before you have even finished stating them. When you stop adding qualifiers and disclaimers to every sentence to make sure no one is offended. When you trust that the people who truly love you can handle the unedited version. This does not mean being reckless with your words. It means being real with them. There is a vast difference between speaking thoughtlessly and speaking truthfully. You have spent your whole life avoiding the first, which is admirable. But in doing so, you have also been avoiding the second. And that avoidance is costing you more than you realize. It is costing you intimacy. It is costing you authenticity. It is costing you the relief that comes from finally saying what you mean and trusting that the world will not fall apart because of it. Tip 8. Rest is not something you earn. It is something you need. If there is one concept that a Virgo struggles with more than any other, it is the concept of rest. Not sleep, though that can be challenging too, but genuine, guilt-free, unapologetic rest. The kind where you do absolutely nothing productive and you feel completely at peace with that choice. For most Virgos, that kind of rest feels almost impossible, because somewhere along the way, you internalize the idea that rest is a reward, something you earn by first completing everything on your list. And since your list is never truly complete, since there is always one more thing to do, one more thing to organize, one more thing to improve, rest gets perpetually postponed. You tell yourself you will relax after you finish this project. You will take a break after the house is clean. You will sit down after everyone else is taken care of. But those conditions are never fully met because your mind always generates new conditions, new requirements, new prerequisites for permission to rest. And so you keep going, running on fumes, pushing through fatigue, telling yourself that you are fine when every part of your being is begging you to stop. This relationship with rest is not just unsustainable, it is harmful. Your body needs rest the way it needs water. It is not optional. It is not a luxury. It is a biological requirement, and when you deny yourself rest, you are not being disciplined or strong or admirable. You are slowly undermining your own health, your own clarity, your own ability to function at the level you demand of yourself. The irony is profound. You push yourself relentlessly because you want to perform at your best, but the refusal to rest is the very thing preventing you from performing at your best. A tired mind makes more mistakes. A depleted body moves more slowly. An exhausted spirit loses its creativity, its warmth, its ability to connect with others in meaningful ways. Everything you are working so hard to maintain begins to suffer when you refuse to give yourself the downtime you need. The pressure you feel is directly connected to this pattern. It is the pressure of a system that has been running without maintenance, a machine that has been operating without ever being turned off for recalibration. You would never treat a car that way. You would never run an engine continuously without oil changes and tune-ups and occasional periods of being parked in the driveway doing nothing. But you treat yourself that way every single day, and then you wonder why you feel so much pressure. Rest is not laziness. Rest is not giving up. Rest is not falling behind. Rest is the foundation upon which everything else is built. Without it, your productivity is hollow, your relationships are strained, and your health is compromised. With it, you have the energy and clarity and emotional capacity to actually enjoy the life you are working so hard to build. Give yourself permission to rest. Not after everything is done. Not when you have earned it. Now, today, this moment, because you have already earned it simply by being alive and doing your best, which you always are. Some people watch, others transform. If you want to be in the second group, the 21-day guide in the pinned comment gives you a clear step-by-step process aligned with your sign. This isn't about waiting, it's about moving. Tip 9. You do not have to understand everything to accept it. One of the deepest sources of pressure in a Virgo's life is the relentless need to understand. You need things to make sense. You need reasons. You need explanations. You need to know why something happened, how it happened, and what could have been done to prevent it. And when you cannot find those answers, when life presents you with a situation that defies logic, that has no clear explanation, that simply is what it is without a tidy reason behind it, you feel a level of discomfort that is almost physical. Your mind rejects the unexplained the way your body rejects a virus. It fights against it, tries to break it down, tries to find the hidden logic that must be there somewhere. And when it cannot find that logic, it keeps searching, turning the situation over and over in your mind like a puzzle piece that does not fit anywhere. This need to understand everything is connected to your need for control, though you might not see it that way. Understanding gives you a sense of order. If you can understand why something happened, you can potentially prevent it from happening again. If you can identify the cause, you can address the effect. If you can make sense of it, you can file it away neatly in your mental system and move on. But life does not always cooperate with that system. Some things happen without reason. Some pain has no lesson. Some losses have no silver lining. Some questions have no answers. And sitting with that reality, truly sitting with it without trying to analyze or rationalize or explain it away, is one of the hardest things a Virgo will ever do. But it is also one of the most necessary, because the pressure of needing to understand everything is enormous. It keeps your mind in a constant state of processing, always working, always churning, never fully at rest. And it prevents you from experiencing peace, because peace requires a certain surrender, a willingness to let things be as they are without demanding that they make sense first. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean you like what happened or that you think it was fair or that you have given up on change. It simply means you stop fighting reality. You stop arguing with what is. You stop spending precious mental energy trying to rearrange the past or decode the universe's motives. You let it be. And in that letting be, in that moment of surrender, something remarkable happens. The pressure releases. Not because the situation has changed, but because your relationship to it has changed. You are no longer gripping it, analyzing it, demanding answers from it. You are simply acknowledging it. That happened. I do not fully understand why. And I am choosing to move forward anyway. This is not weakness. This is an extraordinary form of strength. It is the strength to face uncertainty without crumbling. The strength to walk into the unknown without a map. The strength to trust that you will be okay even when you cannot see how. Every moment you spend trying to understand something that is beyond understanding is a moment stolen from your present. It is energy diverted from the things you can actually influence, the choices you can actually make, the love you can actually give. Release the need to know everything, and you release a burden that has been on your shoulders for longer than you can remember. Tip 10. The life you want is on the other side of the control you are afraid to release. Everything we have talked about today circles back to one central theme, and it is a theme that touches every area of a Virgo's life. Control. You want to control outcomes. You want to control how others perceive you. You want to control the quality of everything you touch. You want to control the future by anticipating every possible scenario. You want to control your emotions by analyzing them instead of feeling them. You want to control your relationships by being so helpful and so reliable that no one would ever have reason to leave. And this desire for control is not evil or selfish or wrong. It comes from a very real place of vulnerability. At some point in your life, probably very early on, you experienced the pain of things being out of control. Maybe your home environment was chaotic. Maybe someone you depended on was unpredictable. Maybe you learned that the only way to feel safe was to manage everything yourself, because when you left things to chance, chance was not kind to you. And so you built systems. You created routines. You developed standards and expectations and mental checklists that gave you the illusion of order in a world that often felt anything but orderly. And those systems served you well for a long time. They got you through difficult periods. They helped you succeed in ways that others admired. They gave you a sense of stability that you desperately needed. But somewhere along the way, the system stopped serving you and you started serving them. The routines became rigid. The standards became punishing. The checklists became endless. And the control that once made you feel safe started making you feel trapped. Because here is the thing about control that no one tells you. The more you try to control, the more pressure you feel. Control is not the opposite of chaos. Control is its own form of chaos, an internal one, a quiet storm that rages behind a calm exterior. Every moment spent trying to control something that cannot be controlled is a moment of tension, of friction, of resistance against the natural flow of life. And life, by its very nature, cannot be fully controlled. People will behave in ways you do not expect. Situations will unfold in ways you did not plan for. Your body will change in ways you cannot prevent. Time will pass regardless of how efficiently you use it. And no amount of planning, organizing, analyzing, or preparing will change these fundamental truths. The life you actually want, the one where you feel at peace, where you laugh easily, where you enjoy simple moments without mentally cataloging everything that could go wrong. That life exists on the other side of control. It is waiting for you in the space between your plans. It shows up in the unscripted moments, the unexpected conversations, the days that do not go according to schedule, but somehow turn out perfectly anyway. But you cannot access that life while your fists are clenched around the steering wheel. You have to loosen your grip. Not let go entirely, because structure and planning are genuine strengths of yours that deserve to be honored. But loosen the grip enough to allow life to surprise you. Enough to let other people contribute without you correcting their methods. Enough to trust that even when things do not go perfectly, they will still go. They will still unfold. And you will still be standing when they do. The pressure you feel is the pressure of a person trying to hold everything together with their bare hands. And you have been doing it for so long that your hands are cramped, your arms are tired, and your spirit is weary. It is time to set some of it down. Not because you are giving up, but because you are finally wise enough to recognize what was never yours to carry in the first place. There is a version of you that exists beyond the pressure, beyond the perfectionism, beyond the constant mental noise that has been your companion for as long as you can remember. That version of you is not some future self that you have to work toward or earn or deserve. That version of you is already here, right now, underneath all the layers of expectation and self-criticism and worry. You do not need to become someone new. You need to unbecome the things that are covering up who you already are. Every tip we covered today points to the same truth. The pressure is not coming from your life. It is coming from the way you are relating to your life. And the way you relate to something is always within your power to change. You have spent years, maybe decades, being harder on yourself than anyone else would ever dream of being. You have pushed yourself past limits that most people would never even approach. You have shown up, performed, delivered, and exceeded expectations in ways that are genuinely remarkable. And you have done all of this while quietly carrying a weight that no one around you fully sees or understands. That takes an extraordinary amount of strength. But strength without softness eventually breaks. A tree that cannot bend will snap in a strong wind. And you, for all your incredible resilience, are not meant to be rigid. You are meant to be flexible. You are meant to adapt and flow and sometimes, yes, even fall apart a little, because falling apart is not failure. It is maintenance. It is your system releasing what it no longer needs so it can rebuild in a healthier way. Give yourself the permission you have been waiting for someone else to give you. Permission to rest without guilt. Permission to fail without shame. Permission to feel without analyzing. Permission to exist without producing. Permission to be loved without earning it. These are not weaknesses. These are the foundation of a life that feels as good on the inside as it looks on the outside. The pressure you have been feeling does not have to be permanent. It is not a life sentence. It is a pattern, and patterns can be changed. Not by forcing them into submission, because you have already tried that and it did not work. But by gently, patiently, compassionately choosing a different response, one moment at a time, one day at a time, one breath at a time. You have already taken the first step by being here, by listening, by being open to the possibility that things could be different. That openness is more powerful than you know. It is the crack that lets the light in. And from here, the only direction is forward. Not perfect, not flawless, but forward. And forward is always, always enough. You have two options after this video. Close it and hope things shift. Or decide that the next 21 days will be different. If you choose the second, the structured 21-day transformation aligned with your sign is waiting in the pinned comment. The energy is already moving, the only question is whether you are.